Sleeping Beauty. Chapter 1. The Curse. There once lived a brave king and his fair queen. For years, they wanted to have children. Finally, the queen had a baby girl. Her birth was celebrated throughout the kingdom. There were 7 magical fairies in the land. The king and queen asked them to be the baby's godmothers. The fairies' gifts would make any baby perfect. They would provide the baby with grace and goodness. The king gave a party for the fairies. There was a table with 7 places. The fairies all sat down to eat. Then an old fairy walked into the room. No one had invited her because they thought she had died. She had lived alone in a tower for 50 years. The old fairy said angrily, "Insult me, will they? I'll teach them something." A younger fairy heard her. She wanted to prevent it when the old fairy did anything awful. The youngest fairy gave the baby beauty. The next gave her wit. The third gave her grace. The fourth made her an excellent dancer. The fifth made her a wonderful singer. The sixth gave her musical talent. It was now the old fairy's turn. Angrily she said, "The princess will cut her finger on a spindle and die." Everyone was shocked. The younger fairy stepped up to the baby. She said, "Do not fear, your majesties. I can't undo this wicked curse, but I can change it. When the princess cuts her finger, she will not die. She'll sleep for 100 years. She will be awakened by a handsome prince." The king wanted to protect his daughter. He made a law. There should be no spindles in the kingdom. "15 years later, the princess grew into a beautiful young lady. One day, she decided to explore the castle. She found a tiny room high up in the castle. In the room, she saw an old woman. In her hand, she held a spindle. The princess had never seen it before. "Please, what is that?" asked the princess. "This is a spindle, my dear," said the old woman. "How beautiful! May I see it?" asked the princess. As the princess reached out, she cut her finger on the spindle. She fell on the floor. She came to sleep. The king ran to the young princess. He now knew that the curse had come true. The king placed Sleeping Beauty in a beautiful room. The magic sleep increased her beauty. Her cheeks and lips became rosy. There was a soft sound of her breathing. The good fairy who saved the princess's life came to the palace and said, "The princess might be sad if she wakes in an empty castle. I'll give her company and servants." The fairy then put many servants to sleep. Even the princess's little dog was put to sleep beside Sleeping Beauty. The king and queen went off to live in another place. The fairy made a forest of trees grow around the castle. The trees were very thick. Sleeping Beauty was safe from the outside world. Chapter 2. The Handsome Prince. 100 years passed. There was a new king of the land. He had a son who always went hunting. One day, the prince saw the castle towers in the forest. The prince went into the thick forest. As he came near the castle, the vines and trees magically separated. He could pass through the forest. Everything was silent in the courtyard. People were sleeping everywhere. Finally, the prince came to a golden room. There on a high bed was the most beautiful lady he had ever seen. The prince touched her hand, and the lovely princess woke. She looked at the prince as if she had always known him. "Is that you, my prince?" she whispered. "I've waited a long time for you." The prince's heart jumped for joy. "I have fallen in love with you," answered the prince. He asked the princess to marry him, and she agreed. After 2 years, the prince and princess had 2 children. The eldest was a girl named Dawn. The second was a boy, and they called him Day. After Day's birth, the old king passed away. The prince then became king. The new king had to go fight in a war. "Please rule in my place," he asked his mother. She was originally an ogress. She had a bad temper. After he left, his mother ordered the king's wife and children to live in a country house. The king's mother called the cook and said, "I want to eat little Dawn for dinner tomorrow." The poor man knew that he could not argue with an ogress. So he got his knife and went to Dawn's room. However, the man could not hurt the smiling child. Instead, he chose a young lamb from the barn. He prepared it for dinner the next day. The ogress queen greedily ate up all the lamb. "She's even tastier than I'd imagined," she said. The next Sunday, the king's mother said to the cook, "I want to eat little Day for lunch." The cook hid Day in a barn with Dawn. Then he prepared a tender young goat for lunch. "He is delicious. You prepared a fine meal," said the ogress. "Now I shall eat the queen." So the cook hid the queen in the barn with the children, and then cooked a young deer. The ogress ate all of it. She was very pleased. She planned on lying to her son. She would tell him that wolves had eaten his family. One day, the ogress went walking. She walked past the barn and heard children laughing. She heard a mother's voice hushing them. It was the young queen with her children. The ogress was angry because she had been tricked. "Get the biggest pot in the kingdom. Put it in the courtyard. Fill it with snakes, toads, and some spiders," she said. "I'll throw the queen, the children, and the cook in it to die, and I'll love watching." The next day, the ogress's servants prepared everything. They were ready to throw the young queen into the pot. Suddenly, the king rode through the gate. "What on earth is going on here?" he demanded. No one dared to speak. The ogress was furious. She knew that she couldn't always have her own way, so she jumped into the pot. The snakes and spiders instantly ate her. The king was upset for a while. However, his sadness gradually disappeared. He was happy to be with his beautiful wife and his two pretty children.